Welcome back to the True Detectives podcast.
Yes, welcome back.
All right, so are you ready for another wild ride into the world of detectives, investigations, and all that unexpected stuff?
Absolutely. Always up for a deep dive into the strange and mysterious.
Awesome. Me too. So, this week we're tackling not just one, but two really fascinating cases.
Oh, intrigue already. Double the detectives, double the fun.
Exactly. We've got a modern-day detective facing off against this, invisible enemy, working side by side with one of those scientists who's a bit outside the box.
Sounds intense already. A clash of methods, perhaps?
Totally. And then, hold on, we also travel back in time, way back. We're talking Viking era.
Whoa, a historical twist. Love it.
Right. And this Viking detective, he's dealing with prophecies, runes, all that ancient mystical stuff. It's a real battle between logic and superstition.
A battle for the ages. So we're jumping from high-tech labs to ancient rituals. This is going to be good.
I know, right? Talk about a contrast. But in both cases, it's all about that core detective spirit, that drive to uncover the truth, no matter how bizarre or hidden it might be.
The truth will out, as they say. And it's our job to follow those breadcrumbs alongside these detectives.
Exactly. So buckle up, folks, and get ready to explore these amazing cases with us.
Let's do it.
All right, first up, we're diving headfirst into a case we're calling Antidote. Imagine this. A modern city, bustling with life, everyone going about their day.
The usual hustle and bustle, unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface.
Exactly. But then in hospitals, emergency rooms, things are getting really bad, really fast. It's this deadly virus spreading like wildfire.
A silent and invisible threat.
And the thing is, the regular news channels, they haven't quite caught on to how serious it is yet. They're still downplaying it.
The calm before the storm.
Right. But inside those hospitals, it's pure chaos. And that's where we meet our main character, Detective Maya Lin. She's facing this sudden outbreak and her first instinct.
Well, she's a detective, right? Trained to look for patterns, for someone behind it all.
Exactly. She jumps to the worst-case scenario. An extremist group, some kind of bioterrorism attack.
Yeah.
Trying to make sense of this terrifying chaos.
It's a natural reaction, isn't it? Especially in today's world. When something this devastating happens, we want to find someone to blame, a human face to this invisible enemy.
Absolutely. It's almost easier to process that way at first. But as Detective Lin digs deeper, the investigation takes a sharp turn.
What? So it wasn't a straightforward act of terror?
Nope. The virus itself. It's just too sophisticated, too precise. The way it spreads, the sheer deadliness of it, it points to something else entirely.
Intriguing. So what, like some rogue scientist? A lab leak?
It's definitely pointing in that direction, something far more deliberate, calculated than just, random violence. And with the death toll rising every hour, the city is starting to panic. You can practically feel it in the air, this fear, this awareness that even something as simple as someone coughing in a crowded subway could be deadly.
So the stakes are incredibly high, and the clock is ticking.
Oh, absolutely. And to make things even more complicated, Detective Lin is forced to work with someone who's, well, let's just say they're not exactly on the same wavelength. His name's Agent Ethan Carter, and he's this brilliant but totally unconventional biochemist.
I can already sense the friction. A by-the-book detective and a free-thinking scientist. Not exactly a match made in heaven.
You got it. Their personalities clash right from the get-go. He's dismissive of her authority, her jurisdiction. He basically sees those things as irrelevant in the face of this virus. I remember this one line just drips with arrogance. A virus doesn't care about your jurisdiction.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a big statement. He's basically saying the rules of law enforcement, they don't apply to him, to the situation.
Yeah, exactly. And it sets up this really fascinating conflict between their worlds. On one hand, you have the structured procedural world of law enforcement, all about evidence, witnesses, and following the rules. And then you have Carter operating in this almost boundless realm of science, where he's driven by this pure, almost obsessive desire to understand the virus, to crack its code, regardless of the consequences.
Two completely different approaches to solving the same problem, and yet they have to work together.
Right. And the description of their workspaces just emphasizes how different they are. You have Maya's whiteboard, classic detective style, right? Covered in photos, timelines, connections, all these tangible clues pointing to, a human culprit.
Trying to find the human element in all the chaos.
Yes. And then you have Carter's lab. It's this sterile, almost alien environment full of machines humming, screens glowing with genetic sequences. It's like he's battling this invisible enemy on a completely different battlefield.
So it's almost like they're speaking different languages, using different tools to try and fight the same enemy.
Exactly. Maya's looking for a motive, a human connection, and Carter's trying to decipher the biological blueprint of the virus itself. It's fascinating, but it also creates a lot of tension.
Absolutely. And speaking of tension, there's that really chilling scene where Carter is looking at the virus, this thing that's causing so much suffering, so much death, and he just murmurs, "It's beautiful."
I know, right? Gives me chills every time I think about it. It's like he's totally detached from the human cost, completely engrossed in the scientific puzzle of it all.
It really shows you how different his perspective is, almost like he admires the virus, its efficiency, its elegance, as if it's some kind of masterpiece.
Yeah, exactly. And that difference in perspective leads to some major clashes when it comes to strategy.
How so?
Well, you have Maya coming from her law enforcement background, focused on containment, right? Stop the spread, isolate the infected areas, protect the healthy. It's all about minimizing the immediate damage.
Makes sense. A very practical, immediate response.
Right. But Carter, he's obsessed with finding a cure. He's willing to take risks, to push the boundaries of ethics even, in his pursuit of a solution.
So again, we see that clash. Short-term containment versus the long-term goal of finding a cure.
Exactly. And it creates this huge moral dilemma.
I bet. So how did they finally find a way forward? Did one of them have a sudden breakthrough?
Actually, it came from the most unexpected place. Not from some brilliant deduction by Maya or some scientific revelation in Carter's lab. It came from a grieving spouse, just mentioning in passing that their husband, one of the victims, had been part of a medical trial for a completely unrelated condition.
Wow, that's incredible. A random detail, a chance remark, and suddenly a new path opens up.
I know, right? Sometimes the most crucial clues come from the seemingly insignificant details, from the people on the periphery of the investigation.
It's a good reminder that even in the most complex cases, human connection, human stories can play a vital role.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So this tiny detail about the medical trial, it completely consumes Carter. He becomes laser-focused on this experimental treatment, working nonstop. And Maya, being the sharp detective she is, she starts to get suspicious.
Suspicious of what? That he's hiding something.
Yeah, exactly. Is he really just trying to save lives? Or is there something else motivating him? Something about his intensity, his obsession? It just doesn't sit right with her.
So now we have a detective investigating her own partner. Another layer of intrigue.
Right. It's like, who can she trust at this point? And the drug they're talking about, this repurposed treatment, is totally unproven. They're talking about giving it to a small group of patients, risking their lives, in the hope that it'll work, that it'll lead to a cure for everyone else.
That's a huge ethical dilemma. The needs of the many versus the rights of the few. The classic utilitarian conundrum.
Exactly. And Carter, he's so cold about it. He lays out the potential benefits, the statistics, like it's a simple math equation. He's completely detached from the human cost, the risk they're asking these volunteers to take.
And Maya, I assume, she's horrified by this.
Oh, she is. She's furious, heartbroken. I mean, these are real people they're talking about, not just numbers on a spreadsheet. She says it straight to his face. Those are people, not lab rats. You feel her outrage, her compassion for these individuals.
It's a powerful moment, the clash between the cold logic of science and the deeply human imperative to protect life.
Right. And then comes the first human trial. It's so tense, so nerve-wracking. This volunteer, they're incredibly brave to step up like that.
Putting their life on the line for the greater good.
Absolutely. And Maya, she's just consumed with anxiety watching this all unfold. Meanwhile, Carter, he's just not confident, almost unnervingly so.
Like he already knows the outcome.
Yeah, exactly. And then a glimmer of hope. The patients, they start to improve.
Finally, a breakthrough, a reason for optimism.
Yeah, but it's quickly followed by this chilling statement from Carter. He says, it's working. The elegant little killer, it met its match.
Ooh, that's creepy. The way he talks about the virus, almost like it's a worthy opponent he's defeated in some kind of intellectual duel.
Exactly. And it's at that moment that Maya realizes it. She throws this accusation at him. You knew the solution all along, and you let people die to prove it.
Wow. So she thinks he deliberately withheld the information about the treatment. Maybe to test his theories, maybe to be the one to find the solution.
Exactly. And his response, it's so ambiguous, so unsettling, this slight smile, almost like he's amused by her accusation. And he just says, knowledge demands sacrifices. You'll learn that, detective, if you want to survive in my world.
It's like he's confirming her suspicions without actually confirming anything. And that last part, survive in my world, it's like a veiled threat.
Totally. And the aftermath is just heartbreaking for Maya. The city is saved. The bioterrorist, the one who released the virus, they're caught. but there's no sense of justice for her, no real satisfaction.
How could there be, with the knowledge that so many people died, potentially needlessly?
Right. And the thing is, Carter, he walks away from it all unscathed. He's hailed as a hero, the man who saved the city.
The complexities of heroism, right? Where do we draw the line when it comes to the means justifying the ends?
Yeah, exactly. But Maya, she knows the truth. She's left with this profound unease, this doubt about the true nature of his actions, his motivations, and she's also left with this chilling thought.
What's that?
Carter, he's now got this incredible power, the knowledge to control life and death on a massive scale. And the implication is clear. He'll be back. He'll be a player in future crises, and who knows what lines he'll cross next.
He's become almost a mythical figure, a symbol of the potential of science, but also its potential for darkness.
Exactly. All right, let's shift gears completely now. Let's travel back in time to a vastly different setting, a world where the lines between reality and superstition are blurred. We're heading to a Viking village where ancient beliefs hold sway and a brutal murder has unleashed fear and chaos.
Oh, historical mystery. I'm always fascinated by how detectives operate in different times and cultures.
Me too. In this case, it's a real doozy. We're introduced to Eric Shieldbreaker, a detective who's more comfortable with logic and observation than the superstitions that surround him.
A man of reason in a world steeped in mythology.
Exactly. And the mystery kicks off with a truly disturbing discovery. Blood has been spilled on a sacred rune stone, specifically the rune representing betrayal.
Oh, wow. That's a powerful symbol in Viking culture, right? A violation of something sacred.
Totally. And it gets even more complicated because the victim, the person who was murdered, they were known for their loyalty. It just doesn't add up with the traditional interpretation of the rune.
So right away, we have this tension between a symbolic interpretation and the actual facts of the case.
Exactly. And of course, the village elder, steeped in tradition and fear, immediately jumps to the worst-case scenario. He starts talking about Ragnarok, the end of the world, divine punishment.
Oh boy, that's not going to help calm anyone down.
Nope. The village is gripped by fear, convinced the gods are angry. But Eric, our detective, he's not buying it. He's looking for a more rational explanation, a human culprit.
Sticking to his principles. Admirable, but also potentially dangerous in a society that believes so strongly in the supernatural.
Totally. And then things get really weird. Runes start appearing all over the village, each one seemingly predicting a specific disaster. Ruin at the forge, sickness at the healer's hut. It's like this psychological warfare designed to instill terror and break down the community.
Someone's definitely orchestrating this, using fear and superstition as weapons.
Exactly. And then the threat gets personal. A rune appears on Eric's own door. The rune of death.
Oh, wow. Talk about a direct message. They're trying to scare him off, or worse.
Right. But Eric, even in the face of this very personal threat, he doesn't back down. He refuses to let fear dictate his actions. He doubles down on his investigation, focusing on the physical evidence, the tangible clues.
So he's not letting the superstitions sway him. He's staying true to his detective instincts.
Exactly. And his persistence pays off. He discovers a stolen longship hidden along the coast. He finds tracks in the sand that indicate a skilled warrior was there.
So human involvement, just as he suspected.
Right. And as he pieces together the evidence, he realizes something crucial. The prophecies, the runes, they're all manufactured. Someone's deliberately creating this aura of dread and doom.
A master manipulator playing on the villagers' deepest fears.
Totally. And as Eric digs deeper, the motive becomes clear. Revenge. It turns out a rival clan chieftain, Ragnar, he's the one behind it all.
What was his beef? Some ancient feud.
Exactly. It all stems from a past humiliation, a duel where Ragnar was defeated by someone from Eric's village. He's been harboring this grudge all this time, waiting for the right moment to strike back.
Wow, talk about holding a grudge, but why go through all this elaborate charade with the runes and prophecies?
Well, Ragnar, he's not just seeking revenge, he's also a religious fanatic. He's convinced that the villagers mocked the gods, and he sees himself as an instrument of divine justice.
So it's a twisted combination of personal vendetta and religious zealotry.
Exactly. When Eric finally confronts him, Ragnar's ranting and raving about how the villagers deserve punishment, how they betrayed the gods. He even says, "They mocked our gods. Betrayal demands sacrifice."
Chilling. He's trying to justify his actions, elevate them to something righteous.
Right. But Eric sees through it all. He sees Ragnar for what he truly is. A man driven by bitterness, and a thirst for power, hiding behind a mask of religious fervor.
So it's a battle between reason and fanaticism, between logic and blind faith.
Exactly. And the fight between them, it's brutal, it's intense. It's more than just a physical confrontation, it's a clash of ideologies. And even though Eric's wounded, he manages to outsmart Ragnar, using his knowledge of runes against him.
How do you do that?
Well, he sees the tide coming in, and with his last bit of strength, he carves the rune of ice into the ground, right there where Ragnar's standing. And as the icy water rushes in, Ragnar's swept away.
Wow, that's poetic justice. He's ground by the very forces he claimed to control.
Exactly. It's a powerful moment, and Eric sums it up perfectly when he says, "You play at godhood, a fool drowned by his own ambition."
And with Ragnar gone, the reign of terror is finally over.
Right. Eric returns to the village, not with some fantastical tale of battling mythical beasts or appeasing the gods, but with the truth. The real threat came from a human, not the supernatural.
A victory for logic and observation. But it probably wasn't easy convincing everyone.
Definitely not. Old beliefs die hard. But there's this great scene with Eric and his wife, Sigrid. She represents a more nuanced view of the spiritual world, not completely dismissing it, but also acknowledging the importance of reason and action.
It's a nice balance between two different ways of seeing the world.
Exactly. And in the end, Eric, he knows that superstition, fear, they'll always be there lurking beneath the surface. His job, his purpose, is to face those forces head-on, armed with his logic and his determination to find the truth.
He's like a beacon of reason in a world shrouded in darkness and superstition.
Exactly. So there you have it. Two incredible investigations, both filled with twists, turns, and moral dilemmas. They show us that no matter the time period, no matter the threat, whether it's a microscopic virus or ancient prophecies, it's the detective spirit, the drive to uncover the truth that makes all the difference.
And they remind us that sometimes the most dangerous threats come from within, from human ambition, fear, and the desire for power.
Absolutely. So think about it. When you're faced with a challenge, a mystery in your own life, what kind of detective are you? Do you go with your gut, your instincts, or do you rely on logic and evidence? And what are the unseen forces that shape your decisions? These are the questions that linger long after the case is closed. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride with the True Detectives podcast. Be sure to rate and follow us for more incredible investigations into the bizarre and unexpected.
And keep those detective minds sharp. You never know when you'll need them.